Hi friends, Ignou യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയുടെ MEG3 2026-ലെ അസൈൻമെൻറ്റും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസേഴ്സുമാണ് ഇന്ന് നമ്മളിവിടെ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ, കമൻറ്റ് ഓൺ ദ എപ്പിസോഡിക് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ഓഫ് ടോം ജോൺസ്. ഡിസ്കസ് ദ സിഗ്നിഫിക്കൻസ് ഓഫ് ദ മാൻ ഓഫ് ദ ഹിൽ എപ്പിസോഡ് ഇൻ ദിസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ. 20 മാർക്കിൻ്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യനാണിത്. Henry Fielding's Tom Jones is built on a consciously epic, picaresque structure, reflecting both its comic spirit and its moral design. Rather than unfolding as a tightly unified plot in the classical scene, the novel progresses through a series of loosely connected adventures that trace the growth of its hero from impulsive youth to morally responsible adulthood. This episodic form allows Fielding to combine social satire, moral underlying coherence through character development and authorial guidance. The novel is divided into 18 books, grouped into 3 major movements: Tom's life at Paradise Hall, his journey on the road, and his experiences in London. Each phase contains a succession of episodes: romantic misunderstandings, comic misadventures, chance encounters, and moral tests. These episodes often function almost independently, resembling the tradition of the picaresque romance, yet they are unified by Fielding's omniscient narrator and by the steady moral education of Tom. The road journey, in particular, provides a flexible narrative space where characters from all social classes intersect, enabling Fielding to present a panoramic view of 18th century English society. Within this episodic structure, the Man of the Hill episode holds special significance. At first glance, it appears to be a digressive tale. The Man of the Hill recounts his life story, marked by betrayal, disillusionment, and withdrawal from society to Tom and his companions. Structurally, this episode interrupts the forward moment of the plot, but its purpose is thematic rather than merely decorative. The Man of the Hill serves as a moral and philosophical counterpoint to Tom. His life embodies excessive caution, misanthropy, and emotional withdrawal qualities that contrast sharply with Tom's openness, generosity, and instinctive compassion. By placing this episode at the center of Tom's journey, Fielding uses it as a warning against rejecting society altogether. The man's retreat from the world has not brought wisdom or happiness, but bitterness and isolation. Moreover, the episode reinforces Fielding's belief in active virtue. While the Man of the Hill prides himself on prudence and self-preservation, Tom's impulsive benevolence, though often misguided, aligns more closely with Fielding's moral ideal. The episode thus clarifies the novel's ethical stance. Virtue lies not in cold rationality or social withdrawal, but in humane engagement with others. In conclusion, the episodic structure of Tom Jones allows Fielding to blend entertainment with moral instruction. The Man of the Hill episode, far from being a mere digression, plays a crucial role in illuminating the novel's moral, philosophical, and advancing Tom's journey towards mature virtue. Second question, what do you understand about the social and economic realities of women's lives in Jane Austen's time from a reading of Pride and Prejudice? 20 marks question. A reading of Pride and Prejudice offers a clear and critical insight into the social and economic realities of women's lives in Jane Austen's time, particularly those of the landed gentry and middle classes in late 18th and early 19th century England. Austen presents a society in which women's security, status, and respectability are closely tied to marriage, largely because women had limited access to independent income or professional opportunities. One of the most striking realities is economic dependence of women on men. The Bennet sisters' predicament arises from the entailment of the Longbourn estate, which prevents female inheritance and ensures that property passes to a male heir, Mr. Collins. As a result, Mrs. Bennet's obsession with marrying off her daughters is not merely comic, but grounded in genuine anxiety about future poverty and social displacement. Austen thus exposes how legal structures left women financially vulnerable and made marriage a practical necessity rather than a purely romantic choice. Marriage, therefore, functions as both a social and economic contract. Women are judged by their beauty, manners, accomplishments, and dowry, while men controlling property and wealth. Charlotte, Charlotte Lucas' decision to marry Mr. Collins illustrates the limited choices available to women without fortune or exceptional beauty. Charlotte's pragmatic view that happiness in marriage is a matter of chance highlights how economic survival often outweighed personal affection. Austen does not condemn Charlotte. Instead, she presents her choice as a rational response to social constraints. At the same time, Austen distinguishes between mer- mercenary marriages and compassionate ideals. Through Elizabeth Bennet, she asserts a moral critique of marriages based solely on economic advantages. Elizabeth's refusal of both Mr. Collins and Darcy's first proposal demonstrates a desire for respect, emotionally compatibility, and equality, values that challenge prevailing norms. However, even Elizabeth's independence operates within limits. Her eventual marriage to Darky is also economically advantageous, suggesting that ideal marriages in Austen's world balance love with financial security. Women's social mobility is also restricted by class consciousness and property. Female reputation is fragile as seen in Lydia Bennet's elopement, which threatens not only her own future but that of her entire family. Respectability is essential to marriage prospects, and women bear the burden of maintaining moral order, while male transgressions are more easily forgiven. In conclusion, Pride and Prejudice reveals a society in which women's lives are shaped by economic dependence, legal inequality, and social expectations. Austen critiques these realities with irony and realism, advocating for marriage founded on mutual respect and affection, while acknowledging the unavoidable economic pressures faced by women of her time. Next question. Explain the significance of the voice of the community in Middlemarch. 20 marks question. In Middlemarch, George Eliot gives exceptional importance to the voice of the community, using it as a powerful force that shapes individual lives and moral outcomes. Rather than presenting society as a mere backdrop, Eliot treats the community as an active presence, a collective consciousness that observes, judges, influences, and often constrains the characters. This communal voice reflects the values, prejudice, and assumptions of provincial English, English life in the early 19th century, and it plays a central role in the novel's realism and ethical vision. The community in Middlemarch functions as a moral and social tribunal. Characters such as Dorothy Brooke, Tertus Lidgett, and Rosamond Vincy do not exist in isolation. Their choices are constantly interpreted and reinterpreted by neighbors, gossip networks, and public opinion. For instance, Lidgett's professional ambitions are undermined not only by personal weaknesses but also by the town's suspicious of innovation and its readiness to judge him through rumor and appearances. The community's voice thus exposes how social reputation can become more powerful than truth, shaping destinies regardless of individual merit. At the same time, Eliot uses the communal voice to explore the tension between tradition and reform. Middlemarch society is cautious, resistant to change, and deeply invested in maintaining established norms. Reformers like Legit and idealists like Dorothy struggles because the community values conformity over vision. Through this, Eliot critiques the limitations of provincial life, showing how collective opinion can strive progress and originality. Yet she does not portray the community as entirely negative. It also provides continuity, shared identity, and a framework of mutual responsibility. Importantly, the narrator often mediates the voice of the community, inviting readers to view it with both understanding and critical distance. Eliot's famous emphasis on sympathy encourages readers to recognize how communal judgments arise from human limitations rather than malice. By presenting multiple perspectives within the community, Eliot avoids a single authoritative social voice, instead revealing a web of partial subjective views. Ultimately, the voice of the community in Middlemarch underscores Eliot's central moral insight. Individual lives are deeply interconnected. Personal choices ripple outward, affecting others within the social web. The community becomes a lens through which Eliot examines responsibility, empathy, and the complex relationship between private intention and public consequence. In doing so, she transforms provincial society into a dynamic moral force essential to the novel's depth and enduring significance. Fourth question. Discuss the metaphorical significance of the title of Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness derives its title from a rich and complex metaphor that operates on multiple levels throughout the novel. Far from referring only to a geographical location, the heart of darkness symbolizes moral corruption, psychological dissent, and the latent evil within human nature. Through this metaphor, Conrad critiques imperialism and explores the fragile boundary between civilization and savagery. On a literal level, the title refers to the interior of the African continent, which Europeans of Conrad's time often perceived as mysterious and dark. Marlowe's journey upriver into the Congo is a moment toward this physical heart, depicted as remote, impenetrable, and ominous. However, Conrad deliberately undermines the colonial assumption that darkness belongs solely to Africa. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that the true darkness is not the land itself but the brutal exploitation carried out there by European imperialists. Thus, the title exposes the hypocrisy of the so called civilizing mission of empire. Metaphorically, the heart of darkness also represents the moral decay at the core of imperialism. European traders, driven by greed and unchecked power, abandon ethical restraint. Characters such as the company's agents display cruelty, indifference, and inhumanity. revealing how imperialism strips away moral values rather than spreading enlightenment. Kurtz, once an idealist, becomes the clearest embodiment of this corruption. His descent into tyranny and madness illustrates how absolute power in a lawless environment can erode conscience and humanity. On a psychological level, the title refers to the inner darkness of the human soul. Marlowe's journey is not only geographic but introspective. As he moves deeper into the jungle, he confronts unsettling truths about himself and human nature. Kurt's famous last words, the horror, suggest a final recognition of the inner darkness, a moment of self awareness in which he perceives the emptiness and moral devastation of his life. The heart in the title thus implies an essential central truth about humanity. Beneath the surface of civilization lies a capacity for evil. Finally, the metaphor extends to Europe itself. By framing the story as a tale told on the Thames, Conrad suggests that darkness originates not in distant lands but at the heart of Western civilization. The title therefore reverses the conventional assumptions and forces readers to reconsider where true darkness resides. In sum, the metaphorical significance of Heart of Darkness lies in its exploration of moral, psychological, and cultural corruption. The title encapsulates Conrad's central insight. Darkness is not an external force but an inherent aspect of human nature, revealed when social restraints collapse. Fifth question. Explain the terms stream of conscience and epiphany. Are these concepts useful in understanding the mental processes of characters in a portrait of the artist as a young man? Stream of conscience and epiphany are two key narrative concepts closely associated with modernist fiction and are especially useful in understanding the mental process of characters in James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Stream of conscience and epiphany are two key narrative concepts closely associated with modernist fiction and are especially useful in understanding the mental processes of characters in James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Rather than presenting thoughts in a logically ordered or grammatically polished form, this technique mirrors the fragmented, associative, and often nonlinear nature of human consciousness. Joyce uses this method to align the narrative style with Stephen Dedal's psychological development. As Stephen matures, the language and complexity of the prose evolve accordingly from simple, childlike perceptions in the opening pages to dense, philosophical reflections in later chapters. This stylistic shift allows readers direct access to Stephen's inner world, revealing his doubts, desires, guilt, and intellectual struggles. Without the mediation of an intrusive narrator, the stream of consciousness technique is therefore highly effective in portraying the gradual formation of Stephen's identity and artistic sensibility. An epiphany, another central Joycean concept, refers to a sudden moment of insight or revealing in which a chapter gains profound understanding of themselves or the world. These moments are often triggered by ordinary experiences but led to extraordinary realizations. In A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, Stephen experiences several epiphanies that mark turning points in his emotional and intellectual life. One notable example occurs when Stephen sees a girl wading at the beach. This moment led us to a powerful realization about beauty, desire, and artistic creation, liberating him from guilt and reinforcing his resolve to pursue art. Unlike traditional dramatic climaxes, joys in epiphanies are internal and psychological, emphasizing mental transformation rather than external action. Both concepts are extremely useful in understanding the mental process of characters in the novel. The stream of consciousness allows readers to follow Stephen's thoughts as they naturally unfold, while epiphanies highlight key moments of self realization that shape his development. Together, they reflect Joyce's modernist concern with the subjectivity and the inner life of the individual, rather than presenting character through plot or dialogue alone. Joyce immerses readers in Stephen's consciousness, making his personal, intellectual, and artistic growth the central focus of the novel. Thus, these techniques are essential tools for interpreting the psychological depth and thematic complexity of a portrait of the artist as a young man. So thank you for watching the video. ഇനിയും സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യാത്തവർ ദയവ് ചെയ്ത് സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്ത് സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യണം. ഇനി ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു വീഡിയോ ഞാൻ ചെയ്താൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉപകാരപ്പെടുമെങ്കിൽ അതേതെങ്കിലും അതേത് ടോപ്പിക്കാണെന്നുള്ളത് കമൻറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ കമൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യൂ. ഓക്കെ, പിന്നെ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന വീഡിയോസിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും നെഗറ്റീവോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉപകാരപ്പെട്ടെങ്കിൽ അതും കമൻറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ കമൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് മറക്കരുത്. അപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് ഒന്നും കൂടി വീഡിയോ മെച്ചപ്പെടുത്താനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. We'll meet you with the next video. By then, take care and goodbye.